Welcome to CLEF Notes, brief answers to theological questions. Our question this morning, where should a pastor stand? Seems like a silly question until you think about the different churches that you've gone to, and the pastors have stood in different places, haven't they? They've stood at the bottom of a set of stairs that is in front of the congregation there. They've stood at the top of those stairs. Maybe there's a stage that the pastor stands on. If there's an altar, maybe he stands in front of the altar. Maybe he stands behind the altar. There's a pulpit, he stands behind it, or he doesn't stand behind it, wandering around in front of the congregation. Maybe there's a lectern. Does he stand behind it? Does he use it? Does he not? Who decides these things? That's an interesting question. Basic rule of thumb is that if there's an altar in the congregation, if the pastor is speaking to God for the people, he faces that altar. He turns his back on the congregation, faces the altar, and speaks. That's what he does when he's praying, right? He's praying to God for the people. But when he's speaking to the people for God, then he's facing the people and he has his back on the altar. He's always between the altar and the people, either facing the altar, speaking to God for the people in a sacrificial situation, we would say, or he's turned around and he's facing the congregation, speaking to the congregation for God in a sacramental type of situation. Of course, there are some pastors that are kind of leery of being in that situation of speaking to God for the people or speaking to the people for God. So they abandon altars or they abandon pulpits and they face the people when they're praying, and they don't really know what to do because they feel so uncomfortable. Maybe they sit down in the first set of pews. Maybe they don't even go up in the front and they walk around at the bottom of the pews, or maybe come up the aisle when they're preaching. And that's the challenge for them personally. What are they? Are they authorities? Well, they're not authorities, but they are to the extent that they are preaching the word of God. They are stewards of the mysteries of God. So they are tasked, they are called to speak to the people for God. So they should boldly stand before the congregation, before the altar, facing the congregation and speaking to them the words of God. And then when they're speaking to God for the people, praying, they turn around and face the altar for the people and intercede for them, we could say at this point. So I hope that helps you this morning when it comes to thinking about where pastors should stand. There are certainly other questions there, but that should cover it for this morning. I hope to see you next time on CLEF Notes.